Namaste everybody, this is Radha Krishna from the Australian School of Meditation, as you know, and this evening we're having our yoga wisdom discussion on Forever Young, the best is yet to come. So what we thought we'd do is begin with a guided meditation, so we can all join in that. Then we'll go through with tonight's discussion, and then Madhya is also here, so we'll finish with some kirtan at the end. So welcome, I hope you're all doing well. Let's begin. Yeah, if anyone can comment about if the volume, as you can see I don't have a microphone, so if you can let us know how is the volume at my speaking level. It'll be hard to speak too much louder than this for 45 minutes or so. So let us know how my voice is, if it's loud enough to hear. And we will begin. So we're going to put a little bit of music on in the background. I'm not sure exactly how much you will be able to hear, but hopefully you can hear some of it. And if it's comfortable for you, you can either lie down if you like, or just sit comfortably on your couch, or wherever you may be. So let's begin with closing our eyes. And I'm sure most of us have had many things to do today, so let's just take a few nice, long, deep inhalations and exhalations just to settle into our class this evening. We begin our meditation with simple breath awareness. So if you can, ask people around you to not disturb while you're doing your meditation. Make sure you turn off your phone so it doesn't ring in the middle of it. And begin with just simple awareness of the rhythm of your breath. So being fully aware and fully present for the full length of each inward breath, and being fully present for the full length of each outward breath. If you like to help the body and the mind to relax, you can put your hands into Chin Mudra. This is where you touch your thumb and first finger together. You can rest them on your lap or on your knees, wherever you're sitting. This is conducive to relaxation. Letting the breath become very easy, just a natural breath, a gentle inhalation, a gentle exhalation. Experiencing the breath just like a gentle wave that's lapping on the shore of a lake. It is unhurried, unrushed, and natural. So feel the breath in that same way. And wherever the mind may wander, gently draw back into the practice. can scan through your body, and if there's any areas where you're holding tension, consciously breathe into that part of the body, be aware of that part of the body on the inward breath. And then consciously soften that part of the body on each outward breath. Maybe your shoulders, maybe your arms, the abdomen or belly, the face. Now that we are a little settled, let's move into some mindfulness, beginning with awareness that we are the observer of the breath. So we step back and we consciously are aware, and you can even meditate to yourself. I am aware, I am watching my body breathe. We now step back from the stream of thoughts flowing through the mind. We're not trying to stop the mind from thinking. We're not trying to empty the mind. We're not trying to control the mind in any way. Simply step back and experience how you are the silent witness, the aware self who is watching this ever-changing kaleidoscope or stream of thoughts. It is just like as if we're sitting on the bank of a river or a stream, peacefully, calmly observing the stream pass before our eyes, our vision. We are untouched, simply observing. To help bring about this experience of mindfulness or silent witness, we can mentally repeat this following meditation. I am the silent witness. I make no effort to think, but thoughts come automatically. I am watching thoughts flow through my mind. I am aloof from them. I am the silent witness of my mind's activities. This silent witness meditation also brings about a very profound and deep realization. The transcendentalist or yogi meditates in this way. Aham Brahmasmi. I am spirit. I am the eternal Atma, temporarily covered by this physical, material body and the ever-changing mind. I am not the body, nor am I the mind. This body has a beginning, it will have an end. I, the Self, the Atma, am eternal. I am the eternal spark or part and parcel of the Supreme Atma, the Param Atma. Aham Brahmasmi. To take our meditation deeper, we're going to harmonize our breathing, and then starting on the third outward breath, we add the transcendental sound of the Gauranga mantra. On each inward breath, we mentally focus, meditate on the mantra Gauranga. On each outward breath, saying the mantra audibly, aloud. Gauranga. We want to completely relax and rest and find shelter from the storm in this transcendental place that this meditation takes us to. So let us all inhale together. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. One more time. prepare to open your eyes. And if you want to, you can stretch. Okay, so hopefully we're all feeling a little bit mellow, and again, thank you so much for joining us in this exploration of this idea, forever young, the best is yet to come. It could be subtitled, Your Life is Eternal. Now, this is not specifically not directly addressing our current situation. The plan is that we are going to be having at least weekly online yoga wisdom discussions, and we will be touching on various topics that relate directly to what each one of us is going through in our life now, what society is going through at the moment, what our future can be, and things such as our own personal spiritual practices, meditation, things like that. So this was a talk that was already advertised and promoted, so we'll be primarily sticking to the topic that was given. But I'm sure as we go through, you'll also see how this is directly relating to what many people are going through at this time. It has to do with the nature of ourselves, who we are, how we view life, our purpose, how we view death, what is death, and how we see our future, what is our destiny, and do we have some influence on what our destiny is. So one of the themes of tonight is also about don't live in the past. I've got some notes and different things I'll read as well, so when I'm looking down, I'm just looking down at some things I'd like to read, and some notes and some quotes from the Bhagavad Gita and things like that. So we want to begin with this idea that if a person, when we identify ourselves as being this physical body and mind which we are wearing, when we think that it is our very self, there are many things which flow from that idea of who I am, what my identity is, including what is the nature, how much time I have in my life, how long my life is, and therefore what I should be doing in my life, and ultimately what is known as death. So when we identify with this body as being ourselves, then naturally as our body ages, or if we get some disease or something like that, we think at a certain point, my life will soon be over. My life will come to an end. Even if our bodies are younger, maybe it's not something that you regularly walk around thinking about. My life will soon be over. But certain times like this, when the constant news feed is about this many deaths in that country and that many deaths, and this famous person, contracted this disease and they may have died, or they're in intensive care or things like that, it does have the tendency to make us a little bit more introspective of what we are going through. So not only our own life and our own death, but even those whom we love, husbands, wives, children, friends, work colleagues, people in our sporting club, our tennis club, or whatever it might be, then we also think they also have a beginning, and there will come a time when their life also will be over. And due to this line of thought, there is great unhappiness. A person will naturally be lamenting that my life will soon be over, this person's life will soon be over. So I'd like to read something from the Bhagavad Gita, which is, for those who may not be aware, I'm sure probably all of you, if not most of you, are aware, the Bhagavad Gita is a most famous yoga spiritual text. it was spoken. The Bhagavad Gita actually means the song of the Supreme, or the song of God. Bhagavat means the Supreme. Bhagavan, the Supreme Person, the Supreme Soul, and Gita means song. So Krishna spoke this wisdom to his friend and disciple on a battlefield 5,000 years ago. So the death connection is there as well. Of course, there are many people in a battle who will die. So Arjuna is, of course, naturally soft-hearted. He is not only is he a prince, a warrior, but he is also soft-hearted and saintly. So Arjuna asked Krishna to draw the chariot which Krishna is driving, and Arjuna is there in between these two armies. And Arjuna basically has a nervous breakdown. It's described how he throws down his bow. Arjuna, remember, is not a coward. He was a great, valiant warrior protecting innocent people. But he was overcome with grief due to seeing the people who were arrayed there on the battlefield who were about to die. So he breaks down and he asks Krishna, I don't know what to do, I'm overwhelmed with grief. Please instruct me. I am a disciple surrendered unto you. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the purpose of all this is. Basically, Arjuna was saying, I want to run away to the Himalayas and give up my duty as a prince, as a warrior, as a protector, and I simply want to go into a cave and meditate. So he laid out certain questions, many questions to Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and this is what the Bhagavad Gita is. So the wisdom that Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita was not just for Arjuna 5,000 years ago. It is transcendental, it is eternal, and it is relevant for every single one of us. So in this dialogue, in this conversation, Krishna says many, many amazing things. And in the context of what we're speaking about tonight, he says this: for one who has taken his birth, death is certain. And he goes on to say, everybody's aware of this first part. There's two things definite in this life. As they say, death and taxes. So this first part, we know, for one who has taken his birth, death is certain. But Krishna doesn't finish there. He goes on to say, and for one who has died, birth is certain. So for one who has taken his birth, death is certain. But this is not the end of the story. For one who has died, birth is now certain. Let's take a drink here for a moment. Now this is coming about not only due to our current circumstances, but maybe some people watching this and who are of a similar age to myself, we are known as the baby boomers. The baby boomers was this big amount of kids born when the soldiers returned from the Second World War. And there was a whole lot of babies born in the 10 years or so after the Second World War. And this generation, the baby boomers, had it better than anyone else up to that time. There was more money available, the economies were good, health was improving. So basically we were spoilt brats. We pretty much had everything that we wanted. So much so that we became hippies. And we thought, yeah, free love, and you don't need to work, and there's so many things that we started to experiment with. In our teens, in our early 20s, but mostly in our teens and early 20s. We experimented with a lot of stuff, and those who are younger than us are reaping what we sowed, what we did, the actions we engaged in. Some of the good is coming to society, and some of the bad is also being reaped by society. The reason I bring this up is because I'm on the lower, younger scale of baby boomers, but there are many who are in their 70s and 80s, maybe middle, 70, mid-70s, and we're starting to get the sense, the feeling that I am closer to the end than I am to the beginning of my life. 70, right? That's closer to the end than 5 or 6. We think, my life had a beginning, I was born, my life, that's when my life began, when I was born, and my existence, my life, will have an end when I die. And now that my body is 60 or 70, then I'm now on the back side, I'm on the tail side of a straight line. So this was kind of part of what was in the write-up for this talk, is that generally we see time as a linear thing. Now just if you imagine I had a chalkboard here or a whiteboard or something like that, and I had a pen, a marker or a chalk, and I was to draw a straight line on that board, 4 feet long or something like that. So if you look at it, there's a beginning to the line, there's various points along that line, and then there is an end to that line. So this is how we generally view time. We talk about, time, the past. This is one aspect of time, the past, the present, and the future. So there are these 3 aspects, and it is linear. So in other words, there is the beginning, of the line, as I said, various points along the way, and then there's a point where the line finishes. And if we see ourselves, if we identify ourselves as being this body, that my existence began, the birth of this body, I've had certain experiences along the way to this point of 70 years or whatever it might be. And then there is a finite point. There is, 80, 85, 90, could even be 100. But there's still a finite point. A couple of days ago, I had to go and get an X-ray. And when I was in the waiting room, there was a lady came in. She had those walkers, those kind of things that help you to walk. And I thought, she's older than me. I'm in my 60s. I thought, well, she'd be at least, 70s or 80s. And there was, a younger man with her, not young, probably older than me. And they walked up to the counter, and of course, the reception, they're asking, this is I'm so-and-so. And just to check that, they've got everything right, they said, and your age, and the receptionist said, maybe there's a mistake on this form. And it says here that your date of birth was 1917. That surely is a mistake. And she goes, no, that's correct. I was born in 1917. And of course that means 103. I was going far out, man. She's really, she was really her body was small and a little frail, but her mind was really strong, and she could speak really clearly, and obviously very intelligent. So maybe, we make it to that kind of time, 103 or 105. Hopefully she's got some more. But still, there is this finite. And we have the first inch of the line. This is, baby. And then we have the last inch. So when a person identifies themselves as the material body, in the beginning, there is a tendency that we look ahead. We look forward to our future. What am I going to do? Well, in the beginnings, we want to play and we want to eat, and there's so many different things that we look forward to. We look forward to our birthdays, because there's going to be a birthday party. Then we look forward to going to school, or not, but that's something which is in the future. And then we kind of go through school, and then we start looking forward to various things that we hope will happen or will happen in the future. We're looking forward to being 13, right? Remember that? You're going to be 13, teenager, you're no longer a kid. And then of course from there you start looking forward to 18. You're looking forward to the future when you will finish your school or when you're going to university, but still there's a future after that. So you'll get your diploma or whatever it is, your bachelor or something or other. And then, having done all of that, the future is you'll get this certain career path. Perhaps you may want to marry, you may want to have children, you may want to get a car, a certain kind of car, a certain kind of house, go on holidays. You understand what I'm talking about? There's always something that we look forward to. We're always looking forward. We don't look back too much. We don't kind of look back, when you're in your 20s and 30s, you don't generally look back to, oh yeah, gee, wasn't it great when I was 3? I had these wonderful experiences as 3 or 4 or 5. You're looking forward, as I said, to the future. But when our bodies start getting older, this changes. Once we pass the kind of middle age line, it's like 40, 45, wow, 50, start freaking out. 50 is really weird. And people have what's called a midlife crisis, because they're starting to get the feeling and the awareness, I'm moving into the end game. I'm moving into the end part of my life. So they're thinking, well, you start to see the end. Rather than, like, when you're younger, you don't see an end. You can't imagine, when you're 12, you think someone who's 18 or 20 or 21 is really old. You cannot imagine being that old. But when you're 45 or 50, your body is 45 or 50, people begin to kind of put you in the same category as the 60-year-olds and the 70-year-olds. You're kind of an oldie now for the young crew. So you start getting put into that basket and you start to relate a little bit. You start seeing things differently. So what is it that a person does when we get to this kind of stage of our life? When we maybe get a little bit later, maybe in our 60s or 70s, what is it that people generally do? Maybe you're in this stage of life, I'm in this stage of life. What do we tend to do? We tend to reminisce. We tend to think about the past, and maybe if we're into something like football or boxing or tennis, maybe we had some achievements, and we might have some those kind of newspapers, when you have them for a while, they go all kind of yellowy and kind of turn up at the ends, and maybe the person has a scrapbook, and they kind of start pulling it out and, sitting there and, reminiscing, that tournament I was in, and you start looking at the pictures, the photos from that time. So now, what is reminiscing? Reminiscing means we've turned around and we're looking backwards. Unlike our youth, where we're looking forward, we're now turning around and looking backwards, reminiscing, right? And we want to talk about it, all the different things that we did. We want to try and catch up with, people that we knew back then, if they're still around. We start checking the obituaries in the news, and there's people that we knew. I remember my mother doing this. She lived to her 90th year, and I remember, a lot of her friends and acquaintances, she would see them in the obituaries and things like that. She'd actually keep track of it, and maybe even like a little notebook where she'd keep their names and things like that, and maybe contact some of the relatives that she knew in connection with those people. So this is how we start to see things, and why we begin to freak out is, as we mentioned, there's the first inch of the straight line, and then there's the last inch. And we start to realize that we are now in this last inch. So we kind of don't really want to think about it. I'm generalizing here, of course. Many of you, may be deeply into some spiritual life, but we see there's a beginning and now the end is coming up. But from what Krishna was saying in this one simple verse, we understand this is not the case. He said, for one who is born, death is certain. For one who dies, birth is certain. If we even think about this a little bit, if we consider, if we meditate upon what Krishna is saying there, many things spring from this, many realizations come from this. We would then begin to think, well, obviously the body has a beginning, and the body will end. That's what we call death. But if Krishna is saying that that's not the end, that there is then birth again, then obviously I cannot be this physical body that I'm walking around in now. This cannot be me, who I am. It is like, Krishna also goes on to explain that it is like a suit of clothes which we're wearing. And somewhere along the line, those suit of clothes will wear out, and we have to discard them and put on another suit of clothes. It's also described, Krishna also describes as being like a machine which we're wearing, like a vehicle that we are in. And the vehicle wears out, you can no longer drive it, so then we have to get another vehicle. So this is what Krishna is referring to in what he's saying there. So from this also comes another understanding of the nature of ourselves and also the nature of time. Time does not have a beginning, and time does not end. There is no such thing as the end of time. Time is eternal. Time also has no beginning and no end. So therefore we should understand that we, our life, who we are, is not this physical body which has a beginning and end and is caught up in this time, is here in this world of time. We are not of this world of time. So therefore we can actually see that our existence is eternal, like a circle rather than a straight line. And this life is simply another chapter in my ongoing story. That's all it is. It is simply a chapter in an ever ongoing, eternal existence. In other words, my life is eternal. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also explains really clearly that for the living being, for the Atma, for you, for me, never was there a time that we did not exist, nor in the future shall any of us cease to exist. We are eternal, ever existing, undying. This is the nature of the self. Being situated in this foundation of wisdom, aham brahmasmi, I am eternal, I am spirit, I am not matter. This, as Christ speaks of it, removes the sting of death. It removes the pain of death. There is no need to lament. We should not lament about the upcoming death or end of this particular chapter of our eternal life, our eternal existence. This body will end. Nor should we lament about whether one of our loved ones or friends, somewhere along the line, their body also will come to an end. But we should not think they have ceased to exist. My existence will cease at what we call death. This is actually rooted in ignorance. So we don't need to spend, when we reach our later years, we don't need to simply turn around and look to the past and talk about how, when I was young I did this, and I used to go surfing, but now my knees are gone and I can't surf anymore. Or I was a champion tennis player, or, and here's my trophies, or when I was young I was a dancer, I was a ballerina, and so on and so on. So there's no need to be looking back. So what do we need to do? We need to plan for our eternal future. So now that we know we are the Atma, we are eternal, it only makes common sense that we should now plan for our ongoing future, our eternal future. And if we don't plan, we will not have a bright future. So spiritual life is all about having a bright future. Right? If you don't plan, if we don't work for it now, if we don't work for this bright future now, rooted in this wisdom of who we actually are, then we are simply laying down the tracks for our future suffering. Whereas if we act upon the reality of aham brahmasmi, who I am, the eternal part and parcel, a spark of the Supreme Soul, then we can engage in activities which lays down the track for our bright future, rather than lamenting for something or other. So we have an eternal future. And once we understand that reality, we can plan for that eternal future, and we can also help our friends and our family also come to know their true nature, the nature of death, the nature of this body, the nature of their spiritual essence, and also they can also have a bright future, despite the ending of this body, which we are walking around in for some time. So let me just go to what the next point was. I hope this is easy to understand. I mean, I'm sure it is. Because this will be archived, on Facebook, you can always go back and re-listen to it, and maybe get, more out of it each time we listen to it. And there may be certain questions that arise, because it's impossible to cover everything, in one class like this. So there are many, many aspects to it. So basically, the suffering that people go through thinking that their life will end is unnecessary. It is unnecessary because it is rooted in ignorance, in misunderstanding. It is not rooted in wisdom. This realization, aham brahmasmi, as I said, removes the sting from that. So what is in my eternal interest? Once we know this, what is in my eternal interest? And what is my eternal function? Who am I? These are the natural questions which will arise from this point. So I am the eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. I am the eternal servant of the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Friend. And my eternal spiritual function is cultivating my loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Soul is known by many, many different names. There is only one Supreme Original Cause of all causes, but that one Supreme Soul is known by many, many different names. In the yoga tradition, particularly those of us who are applying and studying the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, we understand and know this Supreme Soul, this original cause, by the name Krishna, Govinda, Gopala, Rishikesh, Ishvara, many different names that are referring to this one Supreme Soul. So to love and to be loved is the eternal nature and function of every single Atma and every single living being, of you and of me. This is actually our eternal nature, to love and to be loved, and to engage in loving activities with that person whom we are loving. So the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Friend, is actually where perfect love, unconditional love, is to be experienced. So spiritual life means to cultivate this eternal spiritual love, which is already lying there deep within my heart, my real nature. And spiritual life is to cultivate that love for the Supreme. As we cultivate that love for the Supreme Soul, for Krishna, for God, then this actually satisfies this longing and yearning in my heart. And as I'm situated on the transcendental platform of spiritual love, this also removes the fear of death. We still go through the ups and downs of life, and it will come to the point where this body must end, and we must go through that experience of the death or the finish of this body. But we are not lamenting or freaking out, because in this lifetime we are experiencing that perfect spiritual love now, in this life. So we are leading a joyful, happy, purposeful life here and now, fully satisfied on the transcendental platform of love for God, love for Krishna, love for the Supreme Soul. And because that is an eternal relationship, when this body ends, I do not end, I remain an individual spirit soul. Krishna, the Supreme Soul, is also eternal, individual, perfect Supreme Soul. So that connection, that yoga, that connection between me, the Atma, and Krishna, the Paramatma, because we both continue to exist, the loving relationship which is established here and now in this lifetime, in this body, in this chapter of our life. This continues at the end of this body. So therefore our future is bright. So whether at the end of this body our life, our love is completely, our heart is completely immersed in love for the Supreme, and therefore we go back to the Supreme, we leave behind this dimension of birth, diseases, old age and death, and we go back to this eternal dimension in our and continue our loving relationship with the Supreme. Or if we still have some spiritual work to do and we take on another material body, that relationship which we have cultivated continues. So there is no need for lamentation or fear, because we are situated on that transcendental platform. We continue to exist. So acting upon that in this life, this is what spiritual life means. As we were just talking about, cultivating attachment and love for the Supreme. And as we cultivate our love for the Supreme, and as we live a life of loving devotion, what is known as bhakti, loving devotional service in this life to the Supreme, as we do that, then gradually the attachment to this body, to the mind, to the material dimension, and the names and forms and the things of this world, our attachment to those things gradually decreases as we become attached spiritually to the Supreme. I hope that is understandable. So we're not trying to falsely renounce the world. In fact, we are acting positively by cultivating this loving devotion to the Supreme, which is the natural function of the Atma, of the living being, of you and I. Excuse me. I think Christ in the Bible says something like, wherever our heart is, that's where our treasure lies, or it could be the other way around. Wherever what is the most important, what is the treasure of our life, our heart is naturally there. So to uncover this eternal love which is within our heart, that is the most valuable thing that we have. And then automatically we become detached from the things of this world and become attached to the loving devotional service of the Supreme. So then that means that when we leave this body behind, we are not still lamenting for the names and forms of this world, because we are going to we're going to the loving embrace of a Supreme Friend. And my spiritual teacher uses a really nice example to understand this. He said, it's just like if a person is going to go on a plane trip to Japan in a week, and then it becomes 5 days before you leave, and then it comes to 2 days before you leave, and you still haven't learned Japanese. You're going to live there. It's not like you're just going to go and visit for a week and then come back. You're going to leave the place where you are now, the country you are now, and you're going to go to Japan to leave behind everything here. And so this, you kind of just neglect it. You kind of know you're going to go, but you kind of put it aside and don't really think about it. This is obviously, we're comparing this, it is analogous to death. We all know it's going to happen, but we put off preparing for it, and then it gets to being like a few years out, or maybe a few months out, or maybe a few weeks out, and then it comes down to a few days out when we know, okay, I'm going to have to depart this place I'm in now. I'm going somewhere else. Where am I going? What am I going to do there? But let's say the place is Japan. And then we realize I'm going to go and live there. I cannot speak the language. I have no idea how to speak the language. But even more than that, I haven't packed my clothes. I haven't checked my passport. I don't have a visa. So we're not prepared in any way for the trip. We're not ready for the trip. And the reason is because we don't really know we're going on a trip. We've kind of pushed it to the background, even though we may kind of know we've really kind of pushed it to the background. And it becomes a surprise. What do you mean I'm going somewhere? And that's when the doctor says, look, I'm sorry, you have cancer and you have this amount of time to live. And you go, what? Help, I'm going somewhere, I'm lost, oh no, what's going to happen to me? Right? So all of these kind of things run through our mind and our heart, and things are out of control, so we start lamenting, and the suffering continues because we're not prepared. So so how can this fear be overcome? So if we use the analogy again of the trip to Japan. So if you know that someone is going to be there at the destination to meet you, and not only someone, it's actually your best friend. Maybe you've never been to Japan before, don't remember being there, and you kind of go, what am I going to do when I get there? Because you just rushed, at the last moment you've rushed onto the plane because, as we said, you didn't prepare. And you kind of go, what's going to happen when I arrive? Where am I actually going to go and stay? But if you know, you've prepared, you've planned ahead, and your best friend, what do you call it? The BFF, your best friend for forever, is that what it's called? Is going to be there. They can speak the language, they're from that country, they know it inside and out, and they're going to be there to take you through immigration and customs, and they're going to get your luggage and baggage, and they're going to transport, and they're going to take you to this beautiful place in the country where you're going to be with them. If you've planned ahead like that, then your trip, you look forward to it. You are not lamenting or fearful. So this again is analogous to planning ahead. And if we have already planned ahead by cultivating that love with the Supreme Friend now, then when I leave the body, I will be greeted at this destiny, this spiritual destiny, by the Supreme Friend, Krishna. Now, death, of course, is harder than a flight to Japan. And how much we freak out at the last moment if we're going to go to Japan, with only a day to go, how much more do we need to prepare for the trip, which is known as death? Obviously, intelligently, we know we need to do preparation well ahead of time, so that going through immigration and all this stuff is going to be much easier and less stressful and fearful than if I had not planned. So for those of us who do not think ahead, it's not too intelligent, if I may be honest. It's kind of like, again, my spiritual teacher used the example of kids who are really short-sighted about their future. Right? They're really kind of like they're 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, and you're trying to encourage them to do their study at school and to get good grades, and think about going to high school, or think about going to, university or some apprenticeship or something like that, doing a business course, something, so that they can plan ahead for their future. And if it's people or anything like me, I'm going, nah, doesn't matter. Nah, it's okay, I'll be all right. She'll be right, mate. What's the worry? Why are my parents freaking out so much? Well, they're freaking out because they know if I don't do something now, I'll simply become a hippie bum, which is basically what happened. Because they think, basically the kids aren't too bright yet. They don't think about, well, where am I going to live? What's my income going to be? How am I going to get an income? How am I going to buy food? Where am I going to live? They always think I'll be at home and mum and dad will supply somewhere to live and food just magically appears on the table. I don't know where it comes from. They go to some thing in the wall and they push some buttons and money comes out. That's pretty cool. I'll just go and do that when I get older. Money just comes out of walls. So we shouldn't be short-sighted kids. We should actually hear from the saintly persons, hear from the wisdom text, and act upon this wisdom. So similarly, if out of ignorance a person is thinking this life is it, this is all there is, it's temporary and this is what it is, and then that's the same as the short-sighted kids. So again, remembering, Krishna is saying, for one who is born, death is certain, and for one who dies, birth is certain. So now the natural question arises, how do we prepare for the future? So to prepare for the future, we have to know the answer to the questions, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? That's what naturally we should be asking. What is the nature of the Supreme? What is the nature of my relationship with the Supreme? You know, it's kind of like, you know how they have like, what do they call it, success seminars. And many people were of course very interested in having a secure financial base in our life. So we might go to these real estate seminars and learn how we might be able to, invest and make some money. And then of course, the people who we hear from, we check out their background, and if they're driving around in a 1995 Camry, that's kind of paintwork's not very good in it, and they're renting a flat, I don't know, out at, some low-class suburb, and their clothes are a bit kind of tattered. And of course, we're not going to be too confident thinking that, well, this person can help me accumulate a good financial base. But if you look at the person and they have Jaguars, Mercedes-Benz, Rolls Royces, a whole bunch of stuff, and we can kind of see, well, yeah, this person knows how to, that they're a success. But then even that person, maybe they've collected all of these different things, houses, hotels, cars, bank balances. Then of course when they get to the end of this lifetime, then they start also seeing, I've got to leave this behind. And that's when they realize, this didn't help me. I didn't plan further than, I actually didn't plan too far ahead. Because it reaches a point where, as the body ages, the person may not be granted a driver's license again because their eyesight's no good, or their hands are trembling and they can't drive. They might have the Rolls Royce in the garage. They might have numerous cars, but they're unable to even enjoy driving the Rolls Royce because their eyesight's not good enough. Different things like this happen. And again, such a person, looking back at their scrapbook or whatever it might be, or videos and things like that, and they're kind of going, oh yeah, I remember that, or maybe I didn't, because the memory tends to go a bit as well. Excuse me. So they start wondering, did it even really happen? So part of the message that I wanted to communicate tonight is, don't live in the past. If you are now in this part of your life, in the 60s, 70s or 80s perhaps, whatever it might be, don't live a life like this. Don't live in the past of reminiscing all the different things that you have gone through in this body, in this lifetime. Your existence, pardon me, your existence is not a straight line. There is not the beginning, the middle, and an end. Your existence is eternal. It is like a circle. In a circle, you cannot track down where the circle begins and when it ends. It is continuous. Our life is an eternal circle. It is always continuing. It will not end. It is not over. So we are, this is why the title of this talk was Forever Young. We are forever young. And that is why we so much dislike the aging of this body and all the things that the aging of this body brings. For instance, if you've been sitting down like I am now, and then you get to stand up, you start making all kind of weird noises. All these kind of noises start happening that never happened when you were 15. So you start to see, this is not a lot of fun. but we're not freaked out by it. We don't see this as being the end of our life, and we don't look back and lament that it is all over. So don't live in the past. You are eternal. We are ever existing. We will continue to exist at the end of this body. So we simply do take care of our responsibilities in this life, whether it's having a family or a career. One can even be a millionaire. There is nothing wrong with money. There's the saying that money is the root of all evil. This is not completely true. In fact, it's not true at all. The saying actually, the complete saying is love of money is the root of all evil, being attached to it. Money is a neutral energy that can be used for the benefit of myself, my dear ones, and in the service of others. So money is a neutral thing. So rather than just simply accumulating it for the end in itself, and then I have to leave it all behind. So we do our duty in this world. We act in this world as we need to. We act in the service of the Supreme Soul. We cultivate our love for the Supreme. And then when we leave this body of time, that loving relationship with the Supreme continues. And in this life, we put our life in the hands of the Supreme. Back in the 50s, I think it was, or 60s, there was a song which actually was really popular. I think it was even a hit on the charts. Something like, he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got me and you, sister, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. And those hands are hands of love, hands of shelter. So let us put our lives, our eternal lives, in the hands of our Supreme Friend, and we will have a bright future, and the best is actually yet to come. So in this life, chanting the holy names of the Supreme, chanting the holy names of Krishna, of God, it brings life and purpose and happiness to our lives here and now, and also we are cultivating a bright and happy future. So by chanting the holy names, this is how we unlock or uncover that joy, that happiness, that eternal spiritual love which is just lying there deep within our hearts already. And we are preparing for our future life as well. So let us make that decision, let us do that. And as we travel on our own personal journey towards this bright future, let us also try to help others. Let us not be misers. As we are experiencing the joy and happiness that comes from spiritual love and cultivation of spiritual wisdom, let us also share this with others. This begins with those who are near and dear to us. Let us at least try, because each one of us must make a personal decision. Your relative or friend or partner may or may not be interested, but how do we know unless we try? So try to help others also understand that their life is also not a straight line, that their life also is eternal. It is a circle, an eternal circle. And that this body has a beginning and an end, but we are the Atma, who is eternal, who does not have a beginning and end. And let us also introduce them to these beautiful holy names of the Supreme, so they can also live a joyful, peaceful, meaningful, amazing life now, and prepare for the rest of that eternal journey as well. So thank you very much. I've probably kind of talked for a couple of hours. I'm not sure how long the time has been. For those who have managed to stay the course, thank you very, very much for staying and listening. Please consider the ideas. And most importantly, please set up your own personal spiritual journey. To hear regularly, to read and to hear regularly from saintly teachers will greatly enhance our own spiritual journey. So I was asking, Manjali is going to put a link in here for a wonderful site called wisdom.yoga. If you go to that site, you'll find many, many articles that you can read on yoga wisdom. There are a number of saintly teachers, spiritual teachers who are there, including our own spiritual teacher, Jagadguru Siddhaswarupananda, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Charya Das, many different people that you can watch, listen, read, and also have a regular practice of meditation, particularly meditation on transcendental sound or mantra, and these names of the Supreme. And again, on that site you'll find different kirtan videos and tracks that you can listen to. You can have as the soundtrack to your life. You can sing and chant along to. And if you'd like to learn more, then we are also going to be arranging online meditation courses in this time. So keep track on Facebook. If you want to, you can actually send us a message, and we can put you into like a mailing list, where we might actually have regular get-togethers like this that may not be on the just on the open Facebook platform, maybe more or less like a small study group and get together, things like that. So if this is something you're interested in, make sure you drop a note in, you let us know, and we'll keep in touch with you and let you know of all the upcoming events and things like that. Is there anything else I've forgotten? Stay tuned. We also have, every morning there is a meditation and yoga asana classes for those who'd like to keep the body and mind and everything fit, and there's times of more isolation, I think they're calling it. Then there'll also be a link in how you can actually tune into the morning live streams of those things as well. So I think I've covered everything. Thank you very, very much. Really looking forward to catching up again like this through Facebook, and hopefully not too distant future, catching up to see you in person, face to face. Thank you so much, and I'm going to invite Manzilila to come and just have a little bit of kirtan with us just to wrap up. So if you'd like to stay there, we'll have some kirtan. Hari Bol, Namaste. Please join in and chant along from home. So we'll just pull the phone back a little bit so we can see what's going on. And we'll see what the set actually looks like. So we hope you can hear from there. You should be able to hear Manzila sing. She's got a strong voice. And the harmonium is a little loud.
Namaste.
So. Close your eyes if you like and just listen as Manzila chants, relax, and then if you like also sing back in response.
Oh
Namaste to you all. Please stay well, and stay well by staying close to our relationship with the Supreme. And that means staying close to the holy names of Krishna. And that way we will be safe no matter what may be happening around us, what may be swirling, whatever storms may be there in our life. If we hold tight to these holy names, then we can very easily ride out these storms in our life. In fact, these storms or these waves can be experienced as something which is just a small part of our life, because we are immersed in this perfect and pure and all-satisfying spiritual love for the Supreme. So please do so, and we look forward to seeing you again. Namaste. Thank you.